this is Ken Johnson. You
Yes,
guys know me from AutoRing Magazine TV, our podcast that is up on YouTube, where we talk about car news and everything related to the automotive industry. And we have a back and forth debate with my colleagues over here, and this channel here is different because this channel is geared towards motorsports, particularly endurance racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the FIA World Endurance Championship. And so I'm Ken Johnson. Chris, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Chris. Dick King he's a veteran of this game. I'm the
I wouldn't
I'm
say
very
veteran, but hey,
he's
we
a little
both
more
learning on the
experienced.
job.
Yeah, we are learning on the job. That is true.
Because
Um, that I have very short, brief background in endurance motorsports. King was actually one that introduced it to me as well. Um, so this is gonna be this channel is everything geared only towards endurance racing and endurance motorsports. That's everything from IMSA to WEC. We'll discuss everything from hypercar, a little bit LMP2, LMGT3. We're gonna try and hit as many of them as we can. But yeah, this is gonna be exciting, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited, man, because Le Mans, I started watching that back in 2011. Okay. Like my brother used to like to say, man, my favorite car is the Audi R8. Man, I love that car because it wins Le Mans every single year.
Mhm.
And back then I didn't even know nothing about Audi. I didn't really care about them. Everything was about Mercedes and BMW and Lexus and Porsche
Right.
and Ferrari and Lamborghini. And if you weren't one of them, you didn't make sports cars, you weren't cool. So, and here Audi was with their R8 winning Le Mans every year from the year 2000 all the way to 2011. They lost one to Peugeot in 2009. I remember that. But I never looked at the races. My brother used to always tell me, "Hey, Le Mans is on TV right now." And I used to watch and look briefly and see what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I don't even remember anything at that time. And I remember Audi had switched to diesels, and I remember that was in I don't obviously yeah I remember now that was in 2007, but at the time I don't remember when they had switched to diesels. No, take that back. They switched to diesel in 2006. They switched to diesels. They switched to diesels in 2006 with the R10. I remember that now because I searched my history. So um,
All right. So the R10 was in which year?
the R10 came in as a first diesel race car prototype at Le Mans.
Mhm.
Okay, it was the first sports car prototype to have a diesel engine at Le Mans, and that was in 2006. And in 2007 is when Peugeot came in with their 908, and there was also a diesel. Both of them had V12 diesels. Audi had a TDI uh, V12 diesel, and Peugeot had an HDI V12 diesel,
Okay.
and both of them were the fastest things on the track. And I just remember Audi was still winning, and Peugeot, even though they had a really fast car, they always had the fastest car in qualifying. Um, Audi would somehow figure out how to outrace them. And at a certain time, I was like, okay, well, Audi has nothing to prove, you know. So if even if they lose, they don't have anything else to prove at this point.
Right.
You know, I started to gain respect for Audi around 2010, 2011. I'm like, maybe there's something more to Audi than I might think. Maybe they are better than I think they are because they are proving something that they can do something, that they can engineer something right, with this
Right.
race car they got. And so I started to be like, okay, maybe I need to take a look at this because, you know, maybe there's something to this because these other manufacturers, they're not beating them. So
Yeah.
in 2011, I remember I was like, I wonder if Audi's going to win again. And before the race, That's what I was saying. Is Audi going to be able to pull it off one more time? And come the race, they lost two cars. One within an hour of the race, they lost one car. They had three cars per team. Peugeot had three cars. Audi had three cars. Peugeot was their main competitor, at that time. Peugeot had one in 2009. They've been giving Audi a run for their money since they started in 2007. And I always thought, okay, can Audi keep up this win streak? Because, you know, it's impossible to just keep winning, winning, winning. And on top of that, they don't have anything else to prove. Like they can just lose, but they still are considered the best. They lost a car within like an hour of the race in a really bad crash. I remember it was Alan McNish. He took a line that he shouldn't have taken in that race in 2011 and crashed the R18 into the barriers, totaled the car. He was out of the race. Audi was down to two cars
Mhm.
against Peugeot's three. Peugeot still had three strong looking cars during the nighttime hours. Really bad crash again. I think it was Mike Rockefeller, if I'm not
Uh-huh.
mistaken. And this can be corrected if I'm wrong. Crashed into another Ferrari. It was a Ferrari both times that, you know, Audi had gotten an accident with and lost that car, totaled that car the same way, shattered into pieces all over the racetrack. So Audi was down to one car. And this is where Andre Loder, Benoit Trellier, and Marcel Fasel were my heroes at the time because they uh, they had one car. They were the last Audi R18 against Peugeot's three 908s. And I said to myself, okay, I guess Audi's going to lose this year. And there was no point in really watching the rest of the race. And then come sometime in the morning, I think it was 9 o'clock, my brother sent me a text. I was at church actually. And I remember looking at the time and in scoring, and I saw Audi was still in first place. And I think it was switching back and forth though. And Peugeot would end up being first because they had three cars. They had a huge advantage over Audi. Um, and I remember my brother texted me, early in the morning and said Audi had won. And I was blown away. That's when I knew that, okay, wow, Audi is, for one, that
They
darn
built the
good.
shit.
And number two, there's more to just winning the race than just having a fast car over one lap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, so I learned that okay, Peugeot always had a faster car, but reliability played a factor in that race. And what ended up happening was Audi ended up being the more reliable car each time they race against Peugeot.
Yeah. But Pucho had speed though.
Peugeot had
They
a
were
lot of
fast.
speed. They
Yeah,
had a
they
lot
were
of
fast.
speed. And Audi was fast that year. They qualified on pole in 2011, but during the
Hmm.
race they were pretty close. Um, and so there's a lot of different things like different strategies were used in the race. Audi was better on tires. Peugeot was better on fuel mileage.
Right.
So
Each
it was
everyone had an advantage. Someone had an
there
advantage over
there
one.
was yes, there was a give and take advantages for both of the cars because they were better at some things. Peugeot was really good on the long straights. Audi was good in the turns. Um, there's a give and take, and that's what made it interesting over the course of the race is that you had to have a complete car. You
You
had to
can't
have
have
the
one that
most
just go
complete
like
car.
6 hours or 7 hours.
That you had to have a reliable car. You had to have a car that was good on tires and good on fuel mileage and had good pace.
Hmm.
You know, um. So and
I
Audi,
think that's
you
what
had
makes
to
Le
have a
Mans so great though, or just even endurance racing in general, is that there is no just. It's not like doing fast laps, and you're going about once, twice, three times. Like you have to go, 6 hours, 7 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours straight, and your car has to hold up all the way through. So you really have to give shout out to the engineering. engineering teams of these car companies that are coming in and making these cars practically indestructible. Because it ain't like you're driving a car 24 hours casually. No, they're
Right.
going up at 100, 180, 190 miles per hour
200,
nonstop,
215
200
miles
miles,
an hour,
right,
you know.
nonstop, and they're pushing it to the max. Where if you were to take an average car on a racetrack like that for that long, if you go take, let's say, a BMW M3 or M2, push it 24 hours, and the thing eventually gonna break. A hard, just hard push of 24 hours straight, it's not gonna hold up. That's why you have to give a shout out to these guys that work on these cars and that design these cars and
Yeah.
maintain them,
And they
because that is a skill.
yeah. And if and you got to give credit to Audi too because they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on these projects, you know.
Right.
Peugeot spent a lot of money on, the 908. And both of them, kind of got into a spending war, which, we'll talk about later because that became a problem later on because there was, not as much participation from other manufacturers due to budgets. And so you really do gotta give credit to the engineering teams for creating these cars and getting them to do what they do. But they spend a lot of money, and a lot of, working hours on these cars to get them to run for 24 hours. Um, you really have to get your best engineers in there and design these things to do that. Um,
But I think that's also what makes it, that it can also be the downside to it as well, because as we spoke about this before, but that keeps a lot of companies, like say for example, the most iconic car of all time, the most best sounding car of all time in Le Mans, Mazda 787B.
it's the
Um,
most best
it,
sounding. The most iconic is debatable now. That's you could say the
one of the
917
most
is yeah
one of the
okay.
most iconic cars would be the 787B. It is by far the best sounding. If
It's a
anyone disagrees with
favorite.
that,
It
they
is.
can
It's
we
a
can debate
favorite.
that. We can
Yeah.
debate that later in the comment section. If anybody disagrees with that, but um, as I was saying, is that keeps companies like Mazda out there that's like, who's not as big as an Audi or a Peugeot, or who doesn't have that budget to spend $100 million on the hypercar project and to go to Le Mans or to go to Spa and race these cars like they can. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have restrictions now, don't they, on how much money you can actually spend on a car. And you can't just go in there and drop 200, 100, $200 million on your project and your car is just loaded because you've got
Yeah.
practically an infinite budget and you only got to make three cars. So you put that in perspective. I mean, that's 100, $200 million. That's a lot. That's a lot of money on,
Yeah.
on, on, on 3 to 6 cars, whatever, however they're using, how many ever they're using. So,
Yeah.
but
It is.
I like, that's what, but with the restriction they have on it now, I think that opens the gate to have more drivers or car companies come in here and actually race without having to spend an absorbent amount of money just to keep up.
Right. And part of that is because look, like in Formula One, they spend all sorts of money on their, racing programs, right? Like Mercedes, they might spend up to like 240 million or something like that. And they have limitations now on how much they're allowed to spend. And so they do have auditors come in and say, hey, you overspent, so you get a penalty and you get a fine. And so, but the thing about Formula One, it has so many sponsors. The teams can get up to like 14 sponsors per team, and they end up not even spending 3 million. So
Right,
you,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean,
So I think even at one point, I think Mercedes even actually gained money by racing because what they spent on their car was not even as much as what their sponsors were paying them, and
right.
so they ended up making money by racing. You know,
That's
I,
that works business
it's
wise. That's
crazy,
perfect.
but the thing is that Formula One, FIA WEC, and IMSA's WeatherTech Sports Car Championship still trail um, other series like NASCAR and Formula One. They still
which is
trail
crazy.
those guys a lot. A
Yeah,
part of the reason I feel is well, one of the reasons maybe okay, the races are really long in
yeah,
endurance racing, so nobody's gonna sit still for like 6 hours. They might sit there for like a couple of hours. Like an average sporting event for like football and basketball is what, a couple of hours, and
yeah.
so people will sit there for maybe 2.5 hours. But
Right,
once it gets past like 3 hours, 4 hours, people are like, okay, it's time to go do something else now,
right.
you know. And so they're really long. That may be one of the reasons. But I just think that for whatever reason, it just never really got the same notoriety, even though like Le Mans is old, is 1923, and a lot of big nameplates like Ferrari and Porsche have gotten their racing heritage from Le Mans wins, especially
Hmm.
Porsche. Porsche got their whole racing heritage from Le Mans. They have 19 Le Mans wins. They have more wins than any other manufacturer. Their nameplate came from that. That is how they got their prestigious nameplate. When it comes to motorsports, they're known for Le Mans. When you think of Le Mans, you got to think of Porsche. When you think of Porsche, you got to think of Le Mans. So
Right.
they have a strong history at Le Mans. Them and Ferrari have a strong history at Le Mans. So
But that's what also made Porsche as big as they are now, even as a car company. Was I mean, Le Mans itself also was huge for them. I mean, the
yeah,
history, even everything behind those cars, your GT3s, your GT2s. I mean, those all have a history. But even to this day, I mean, they're still being raced. I mean, they're being raced in LMGT3 and hypercar. I mean, so it's just that they have a very, very extensive history when it
yeah,
comes to endurance racing, an
y-
experienced one.
yeah. In sprint racing and long endurance races like Le Mans and Sebring, they
But if
got
I'm not
what?
mistaken, though,
They got
oh, sorry,
19
man,
wins
go.
at Sebring.
Yeah,
So
I mean that in itself. But what about you look at a company like Audi? I mean, who's Audi under? Who the
VW,
Empire,
yeah, the
right? And who's
Empire. I
Porsche
call them the
under?
Empire,
And who's Porsche under?
the
So
Empire.
do you think that Audi had a, let's say that they were benefiting from Porsche's experience while at Le Mans for all them years, that they were it was practically just like another Porsche out there, or do you think it was just they were just their own entity?
Well, I'll say this. In 1998, Porsche had a sports prototype in the LMP1 class that they were going to launch, and it was going to use I believe it was going to use a V12. No,
Hmm.
yeah, no, a V10. Sorry, and they did not want to have Audi and Porsche racing against each other at that time.
Hmm.
At that time, because they didn't want internal conflict, and so
Right.
what ended up happening was Porsche canceled their LMP1 program in 1998. In the
Mm.
V10 that they were going to use, they put in the Carrera GT.
I
The
see. Okay.
Carrera GT is actually based off of what was going to be Porsche's next Le Mans prototype LMP1 car.
Mm.
And so that's why a lot of people get killed or get hurt driving it and they have issues driving it
Yeah, because it's a race
because
car.
it's a racer's car.
Right.
And what Porsche did was they gave their resources and their personnel over to Audi, who were Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich. He, was at Le Mans one day and he was happy with what he saw. And he was just like, we have to do this.
Right.
So Audi
Okay.
decided they wanted to go racing. And
Hmm.
Audi at that time, I don't know if they had it, they never raced in the GT class or they did rally racing and they were
Yeah.
very successful with their quattro all-wheel drive system doing rally racing back in the days, back in the 80s. And so,
Yeah, what about Subaru though?
yeah, well,
Real, real
what
time.
about them? Well, how many wins they got? How many they have? Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay, yeah, all right, yeah. So,
Yeah, but hey, you don't know what's going to be coming one day.
They ain't coming to Le Mans. I know that. So
Probably not.
anyway, yeah, they're not. So what happened was Porsche taught Audi how to race. You could make that case. You could make that case because there was no Audi was not racing in that class or in any class during the 70s, during the 80s, or the 90s. And so they started in 2000 or 1999 with the R8R, okay, and the
Uh-huh.
R8C.
Right.
And so that's when they first had developed a sports prototype. Um, that was a great year, 1999, at Le Mans. It was a great race that year. I looked at it. Yes, I did. I looked at it, and BMW won with the LMR V12. So, and there was a lot of participation at that time at that class, and it was a great race, great win by BMW. But that was Audi's first race in that class and at Le Mans, I believe. So, then in 2000, they came back with the R8.
Hmm.
So in the R8, it's with an exception for the reskinned R8, which is called the Bentley Speed 8 in 2003, Audi won every year up to 2005 with the R8 at Le Mans.
So they've got history. Well, let's transition into what we got coming up here soon. We've got Le Mans coming up here soon, so we might as well discuss, you know, some things to look forward to because this year has Ferrari ridden all over it, from Qatar all the way up to uh, Imola to Spa. Ferrari has came in first at every single one of them, and sometimes even all their cars placed in all top three. So, what is it that Ferrari is doing? What is their secret sauce that is making them just no matter what the situation is, they are always finishing out on top.
I don't
What is
know,
their
man.
secret sauce?
I don't know if it's because of their experience in Formula One, but they came in fast from the word go. Like, and they have not been in that class since they had the Ferrari 333 SP back in 1998. They haven't even been at Le Mans or made a LMP1 car or made an engine to power LMP1 car. But they just
Hmm.
came in and said, yeah, our car is going to be called a 499P. And it's gonna have a V6, and they came in, and the first race they had was at Sebring, right, in 2023, and they scored pole position, and so they were fast from the word go, and I'm like, how is Ferrari this good? Did they win? No, they didn't, but we know the car had potential,
Right.
and for whatever reason, somehow they were able to turn that speed they had because they were good in qualifying, but during the race, they would have issues with cold tires and lack of grip. And they would end up kind of falling away during the race. And so Toyota would end up winning. And
Yeah.
last year, Porsche ended up winning the championship. And so even though Ferrari would out qualify them, and no, Porsche would out qualify them sometimes, but they ended up um, having good pace during qualifying, but during the race they would fall apart. But then at Le
Yeah.
Mans they would show up somehow, and they won the
Yeah.
last couple of Le Mans. So
Right.
um, so but now, but during the championship, the rest of the races during the season, they weren't really showing up like that. I think I don't know, last year they might have won what, two races last year? How many races did they win last year? Like
W.
it
Uh, they
they
won.
didn't okay, because Porsche and Toyota, Porsche won the championship. Who
Uh,
I think Toyota came second, right? Toyota
right.
came second. Ferrari would have had to come in third place in the championship. In 2023, it was all Toyota.
They won Le Mans and they won Circuit of Americas and Imola
Yeah, so they won
last year.
three races,
Yeah.
but Porsche won the championship. I think what Toyota came second.
But do you think that no matter at the end of the day, that no matter how many races you win in the season, when it comes to Le Mans, that is the one that defines it all. Who wins Le Mans? Because the most, it's not, it's the most, it's the roughest experience because you're not essentially racing on a track. It is also somewhat of a street circuit as well. And then you have the fact that it's 24 hours long. There's a lot of preparation has to go into Le Mans compared to any other race out there. Do you think that Le Mans is probably just the one that even though somebody could win Spa, win Imola, but this is the one that if you win this one, you win the big like you are the best.
That's the way it historically has been. Um, Historically, that's the way it's been. If you win Le Mans, you get the most credit. Um, you get the most notoriety in turn. Like in matter of fact, like when Toyota created the GT1 back in
Hmm.
1999, that whole car, that whole entire program was created to win Le Mans. It was created to do one thing. It had maybe one other race that I saw it in, but
Uh-huh.
it fell apart. But at Le
Do
Mans,
you think
that
it should
that
be that way though?
well, it's always kind of been that way historically because that's the race everybody talks about,
Right.
and um, it's a special place. It's a special race. It's the most prestigious
Hmm.
endurance race. It's the most famous endurance race, and it's the oldest endurance race. And so um, it's always kind of been that, if you win Le Mans, like if you've seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari,
Of course. Hell
you
yeah.
know, if you've seen that movie, then you already know that that whole movie was about Le Mans. It wasn't about the championship.
Right.
It
That
wasn't about
Ferrari
no
was winning.
championship or
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
It was about Ford taking the GT40 to Le Mans to beat Ferrari.
Hmm.
That was their whole goal for the Ford GT40 was to beat Ferrari at Le Mans. That whole car, that whole entire program was created for Circuit de la Sarre for 24 hours.
Right.
And so they uh historically, back that was back in the 60s, and historically it's been that way since like the Ferrari, not the Ferrari, but the Porsche 917 was created to win Le Mans. They wanted to win Le Mans bad. Um,
Right.
and they eventually did. And what we see now from Porsches, they are a huge nameplate, especially at Le Mans. So it's always been that way. Um, and I think
So
that low
go ahead.
key, I mean, it's not that the manufacturers don't care about the championship at all, because they're going to try to win the championship. Let's
Of
make no
course.
mistake about it. But, you know, do they go through the extra gear or extra gears at Le Mans is the question.
Hmm. But the question is now though, because I want to transition this a little bit. You mentioned earlier you talk about Toyota, just very briefly. Now, they have not been doing so well this season compared to what they have been previously doing the past 2 years. Um, is Le Mans their is this gonna be another slip for them, or is this gonna be their comeback season for them? Because they have
Man,
not
look,
the Toyota that I used to see that we used to always be up there that you could never count out, and they didn't count out. I mean, it was always either number one or number two. Is now placed in sixth, some eighth. What is going on with Toyota?
I mean, part of it is BOP though, because that is the heaviest car on the grid by, I'm not gonna say by a long shot, but it is the heaviest car on the grid, and I think it has the WC. They gave it the most handicaps out of all
Hmm.
the hypercars on the grid, including the GTP cars and the LMH cars on the
Uh-huh.
grid. So I think that um, I think that part of it is that the car Toyota's LMP1 cars have always been on the heavy side anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but it's it's even more handicapped now. But you can see that even though they handicapped the car last year, it was still really competitive last year, even though it was handicapped last year.
Right.
And Le Mans, even though Toyota has been more handicapped than Ferrari at Le Mans, Ferrari, I mean, it's been a close race between Ferrari and Toyota at Le Mans. Even though
Right.
Ferrari actually has an advantage with the BOP, the balance of performance, if you guys don't know what BOP stands for, they still made the Toyota still made it a competitive race somehow. So they have a really well managed car. They know how to get that car working absolutely right because it's the oldest hypercar on the grid. They started like
Yeah.
what in 2021, so they have a
Hmm.
huge head start with that car, and they never left racing since 2012 in that category. When Toyota came back to Le Mans, they came back with the TSO 30 in 2012. They've been racing ever since then in the top category since 2012. And so they know how to get a race car on the track in that class and get it working.
Right. So
Everybody else has to play catch up.
but they just added this guy from Formula One who also raced for Formula E, Nick DeVries. He is on going to be on their number seven car in Le Mans. I mean, why this guy? I mean, it's not the same. I mean, he's I don't really know much of him. He hasn't won an F1 championship, and he hasn't. I'm pretty sure he was maybe a former Formula E championship, but Formula E cars is I don't count that stuff. I don't. It's electric. It's not. They're
What?
heavier. And I
What?
don't count that
You
when it
don't like
comes to
Formula
racing.
E, man?
No,
Why
no,
you don't like
I'm not.
Formula E?
Man, it's like think of it as you listen to a whole bunch of fast Roombas going around a racetrack. You know the little robotic vacuums. That's what Formula E is.
I
And
mean, they got
it's not to say that it's not
the.
cool. I mean, it gets racing at the end of the day, and and I enjoy racing. But when I think of racing, I think loud cars. I think combustion engines. I don't think of Formula E, but that's another topic for another day. Is this guy going to help Toyota? Why do you think they added this guy to Toyota to their number seven car?
I mean, well, usually those guys they like to get someone with some open wheel experience. At in the LMP1 class, they choose drivers that have some type of open wheel experience. A lot of them like guys with single seater open wheel experience. Those guys do tend to be pretty quick. Brendan Hartley was pretty quick when Porsche hired him for the 919 program. He was a Formula One test driver, I believe, and he had some experience in that class, in that series. I mean, um,
Hmm.
Andre Loder was racing over there in Japan for Formula Nippon,
Hmm.
Formula 3000. And he was really good. Um, a lot of guys, a lot of these teams, I mean, they do get open wheel single seater drivers. Um, you can look at Alan McNish if you know anything about him. He was supposed to go to Formula One in 2000. That was his dream come true career is to go to Formula One and be the best in Formula One. And he
Hmm.
was racing for Audi. He was racing in with the R8 program.
Right.
And so a lot of these teams they like to get the guys who are the fastest drivers if they are available. Now, if they have contracts with Formula One teams, then obviously they can't get those guys from their Formula One seat. Like I can't
From
get Lewis Hamilton to do a full season with
yeah.
Ferrari in the
Right.
WEC and do a full season in Formula One. Like that wouldn't be
Yeah.
possible. So
Shout out to him too, by the way, because he's racing with Ferrari now. I like that.
yeah,
I like that.
yes, congratulations, Lewis Hamilton. But I'm just saying that if you can get a guy like that who's got that experience, who's known to be fast, if he's available, if he didn't get picked by a Formula One team, they'll get him. They'll get picked by a WEC team in the top category. So that's why they chose Nick DeFries.
Okay. So okay. Because again, I just think that. listen, what if we're looking at a team like Toyota? We got good thing. Let's just go through who we have on the entry list. You've got Alpine with their A424. You've got BMW with their M and hybrid V8. You've got Cadillac with their V Series ZR. You've got Ferrari with the 499P, Peugeot 9X8, Lamborghini SC63, Porsche 963, Toyota GR010,
And the Aston Martin Valkyrie.
and the Aston Martin Valkyrie. Now, let's talk about your guys. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You already
You
know who I'm
talking
gonna
about?
say.
You talking about a
Peugeot.
963? Oh, Nuke
No, I'm talking
Peugeot.
about
Come
yeah.
on now.
So no, because I want people to know. Peugeot.
Uh,
Ken here's gonna give Peugeot to what round was it? What
I
round
was
was it
gonna give
to?
them to round six to really
Now,
show that they can get second place. Like, okay, they got really close, but they need to do it without the minimum weight and maximum horsepower though. So I give them to round six.
but
If they don't show
why
potential, ride
but
round six.
why are we giving Peugeot that kind of grace when these guys have been legends in the scene for a while, but BMW is
But
coming in here and they're placing way higher than Peugeot.
what?
And
Okay,
if we look at the races, we've got so if we look at Qatar,
but this is their third
BMW placed,
season.
but
What?
okay,
Where was
but
BMW last season?
they don't. Hey, but where was
See, that's the
Peugeot last
thing.
season? Where was
This is
Peugeot last
okay.
season?
Okay, fine, fair enough. Because yeah, I get what you're saying. Peugeot has been in it since 2022. Okay, they
And
tried to
BMW
wingless.
placed. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Peugeot has been in it. They are the second oldest hypercar manufacturer under the new hypercar regulations, next to Toyota. Okay, I get that. I agree with you to some degree, but the argument that is being made is that they have a whole new car, so they starting from scratch. I wouldn't say that I don't agree with it, but that's the way I'm going to play it anyway. So I give them a round
Uh,
six. Okay, so they had the wingless concept that did not work. Okay, and
yeah.
so they changed their whole aerodynamic package with that
Mhm.
9X8. So they have a rear wing now. And so since they changed their surfaces on that car, they made adjustments in other areas like the suspension and the engine. And so they kind of have to start over. So they have to get used to their new package now because they kind of have a new car they got to get used to. But I do understand where you're coming from because you piggyback off of where you left off at the same time, which is
Right.
what honestly, because Toyota has the GR010 started in 2021. It didn't even have no competition, and they have a rule where you have five Evo Jokers for hypercar category, right? So there are five times you can make major changes to your package over the course of the regulations, and then you have one full redesign of the car that's allowed or from the ground up
Mhm.
under the new regulations for hypercar category. And so Toyota, I don't know how many they use, but I know that for one, they did change their tire, and under the rules, you're allowed to have four tires that are what? Is it the rear ones and the front ones are equal in size as long as they're like what 32 centimeters, size tires, and then you have another option where you have the rear tires are bigger than the front tires. That where you have the front tires are 29 centimeters and the rear tires are what 31 centimeters or 32 centimeters. And so Peugeot, I mean Toyota gained an advantage when they switched to larger rear tires, right? Peugeot, when they were running their wingless concept or their wingless design, they were using the same size tires for each four wheels. They, with this new aero package, went to bigger rear tires.
Okay.
So they kind of have
So
to.
so
So I'm giving them a little bit of
you got a
grace.
whole new car.
They haven't
Yeah.
been in motorsport since 2011. That was their last year. So I'm giving
Okay.
them grace.
We'll
Hey. I'm giving him the
I
round six.
you give him
B,
round six. I'll give it
B,
to.
oh,
I don't
BMW
know.
BMW towards the end of the last season in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, they won one of the races in a 1-2 finish with that M Hybrid V8,
Hmm.
in round like 6 or 7, right? And
Right.
so I'm like, okay, well, let's give Peugeot the same grace. That's all I'm saying. And if they don't show nothing by then you can, okay, fine. They probably don't have to redesign that car, you know.
Okay.
Because
So
to this day, BMW has been running at a lower weight. They've been having an unfair advantage anyway. So they still been having an unfair advantage. So they just now are giving the car weight penalties for the next race, which is next weekend in Detroit.
okay. Right. Okay. Well, let's get to the next topic here. We've got a team that has been that came out of nowhere this last race with the A420. The A was A424 Alpine, however you
Who?
want to pronounce
Who?
it.
Who?
Don't be saying that now because
Nah, nah,
because
nah.
they, they
And you
we
know
can't we
what?
can't say that.
Oh, yes, you
You can't
can.
say that. They can't listen. I take things. I like to take things as they are. Alpine last race did had a very surprising finish. They finished third behind the number 51 and number 50 Ferrari 499P, and with their who was that? I forgot what their drivers' names were, but it was a very shocking result because no one counted Alpine. Really, no one ever counts Alpine in any of these races. They're there, but they're not really there. Like you're just like, okay, Alpine or Alpine is here, so that's that. But hey, we've got to take things as they are. Is Alpine a team that now needs to be taken more seriously? They've got back-to-back podiums at Imola and Spa. Okay,
Man,
and
look,
then they've
man.
got Schumacher, Mick Schumacher, and
Yeah,
he's going to be performing his Le Mans debut in a front-running car.
that's good
So
for him, man. I'm glad. I'm happy for him.
you looking like you don't believe in him at all. You don't believe in Alpine now once at all in Le Mans.
Man, look, man. You seen what happened to them last year at Le Mans? You seen how long they lasted? I
Hey
think they
man,
lasted 4 hours and they broke down.
I mean, hey man, but
I
hey,
look. I respect all manufacturers. That's my policy. But I'm just
listen,
doing. I'm just
Le
doing this for
Mans,
fun.
that's 4 hours Le Mans. They did 6 hours at Spa. So
I
hey,
mean, they don't. Are they ready for 24 hours though?
that's true. That's what I'm saying. That's why I give Le Mans is that race that it's just it defines everything. Can your car go 24 hours nonstop pushing at the hardest at the fastest and the hardest limit? Can it do it? And when you've got guys like Ferrari and Porsche and Toyota who are seasoned vets in this side of the side of the race or in this particular race, it's hard as a team like Alpine. You got a huge chip on your shoulder to go in there and go 24 hours with the big dogs. Because I tell you right now, Ferrari, those guys do not play nice. Much as I pick them, and much as I like to see them win, man, they are some dirty drivers. They be flying out the pits on you. They will do. I mean, they will do
They
some of
get
the most
penalties
grimy
though.
stuff. Yeah, they will do some of the most grimy stuff when racing. But then, hey, that's racing, man. I mean, you gotta
It's
have
racing.
that. Look at F1 with like a lot of people hate Max Verstappen because he is a grimy driver. But
Yeah.
look at his results. I mean, the guy is skilled. Like, we talk about a guy who takes risk. Imagine a guy like that racing in Le Mans. I mean, shoot, you have guys where they throw fights in the pit lane racing against a guy like that
Yeah.
because he does not play
Uh,
nice. But he's keeps it real.
that's
So
fair enough. I like drivers like that. I mean, honestly, I
yeah,
like a
Max is one
driver
of my
that
favorite
goes
drivers.
for it. I love a
Honestly,
driver that because
I like
Alan
Max
McNish
better
used
than
to do that.
Hamilton.
Yeah. Well, um, because I don't get me wrong. You do gotta. You know, there's look. I'll just put it like this. I like Alan McNish a lot, right? Because he was an
Uh-huh.
aggressive driver. He was a fast driver,
Yeah.
but his dirtiness, well, his incidents, I'll say that, only came from the fact that, look, he's just not going to lay down and just let you win.
Mm.
Like I like that about a guy like Alan McNish. Um, and we got a guy like Earl Bamber who also gets in a lot of incidents on the track with other cars. He does.
I'm getting
Um,
tired. I don't even want to talk about. I don't even want to talk about him.
but anyway, we'll
Yeah,
skip
I don't even
that.
want to. Don't
I,
even mention his
no,
name because I'm getting
the,
tired of him and what he's doing with Cadillac. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of him. Bend
okay, I like Errol Bamber. Errol Bamber is good,
He's a
man.
good
He's
driver. He's a
another.
great
He's got
driver.
F1.
He
He's
F1
got
is
open wheel
yeah.
experience too, man.
Yes, he
So he's
does.
good.
He's
But
not a bad driver, but dude, you can't drive these cars like you're driving F1 cars. You can't do it. You can't. And this guy just takes the most unnecessary risk sometimes. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that?
I think some of it is coming from the fact that
Spa
with
last year as
the
an example.
yeah, ooh, that was terrible. But yo, these cars are a little bit heavier, okay, than the DPI cars from like 2017, 2018
Yeah,
on up. Um, those cars were weighing a little bit less. They were like 900 kilograms, and these
yeah,
cars are 1,030 kilograms on up. And so it could be that, maybe some of the drivers like Sebastian Bourdais in 2023 had a lot of incidents with the Cadillac V Series R. And it could be that, when you go from a lighter, more nimble car, because I could look at the DPI cars and I can tell, like, okay, yeah, they look more nimble through the traffic. Like, look at how well they weave through the GT cars when they're passing the GT cars. And then I look at these GTP LMDH cars, and they have to take their time a little bit more when they could go through the traffic, the GT cars, because it could be because, for one, they have a little bit larger footprint and they're a little bit heavier. They're 1,030 kilograms instead of just 900 or 870 kilograms. So
right.
that could be part of the reason. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. The drivers do say that, yeah, the cars are a little bit heavier, slightly, and they're not as nimble. They don't have as much downforce as the DPI cars did from 2018 to 2022. And so you can only adjust the rear wing. That's the only device that you can adjust, or aero device that you can adjust. You can't have a total different aero package on a car like you used to be able to in LMP1. Like
Right.
you some of them cars had like three different completely different aero packages all together. You can't do that with these.
So I mean, but listen,
But
we'll just say Cadillac because I want to do a brief speaking on them. They've got to do better with this stuff, man. I mean, they let's not forget Cadillac technically has some would debate the fastest car on the track. But and when they are on their game, on their A game, they are there, and they are hard to beat. They are a hard team to get by. But what I keep seeing with them in a lot of these races that
when they're on it, I mean,
they just they show up too late. It's like they're
well,
coming in too late, and it's just that by
well,
that point,
I
come on. I mean,
they they were good. Like, okay, during the DPI era when they had the DPI V.R.
mhm.
Um, that car was amazing, man. It was so good. I wanted to lose at some point because I was tired of it winning. I would fall asleep watching it race, and that
Right,
this is important. From because from the beginning, you know, it was the fastest. They had Wayne Taylor Racing and Action Express. They were dominating the big long endurance races, Daytona, Sebring, and then Watkins Glen, and then Petit Le Mans. And it seemed like nobody could beat them. Acura was there, but they couldn't beat them. Nissan DPI was there, and it actually won some of the races. Nissan DPI, but most of the championships were still going to Cadillac. Cadillac was, you know, you already knew what was going to happen at Daytona. They even brought in there Fernando Alonso, and guess what? Fernando Alonso wanted to, have like the triple crown, right? He wanted to win the Indy 500, Monaco. He wanted to win in Formula One. He wanted to win in IndyCar, and he wanted to win in sports car endurance racing. And so in America. And so what he did was, in order to give himself the best chance at winning, what did he do? He raced with Cadillac. That's
Yep.
how good Cadillac was. He didn't, Fernando Alonso didn't go to Acura. He didn't go to BMW. He didn't go to Porsche. He went to Cadillac. And so that's what he did in order to ensure that he was going to win. And he did with Wayne Taylor Racing, the number 10 Konica Minolta car. And so Cadillac has to get back to that form where they were that dominant, where, and it maybe they are back, and maybe the competition has just gotten a lot better, and that's a real thing because look, if you look at a lot of these brands, man, a lot of them are much further along than what they used to be, Cadillac included. Back in 2002, back in 2000 to 2002, did you know like Cadillac had a LMP car, LMP1 car? It was called the North Star LMP.
You told me this, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I told you this story before, and it wasn't all that competitive. And honestly, as a brand, Cadillac wasn't competitive with any luxury brand at that time at all. They were not, part of the conversation or part of the story. And the North Star LMP reflected, you know, where they were at that time. But if you look at Cadillac now, they're a whole different level. So what I'm saying is everybody these days is making a good car. A lot of manufacturers are making a
That's
good
true.
car these days. So
That is true.
there's since everybody's making a good car, now you look at Porsche, 19 Le Mans wins. They're not used to losing, man. When they want to win, look, even with the RS Spider, which was an LMP2 car, they were racing against an LMP1 car called the R8, and they were winning sometimes.
Yeah.
No,
That's
no lie. That's how good they are.
yeah. That's
And
ridiculous.
so, but nowadays, it's different. Now Acura is good. Now Alpine is good. Now Cadillac is good. And now you have competition that you didn't used to have before
Right.
because everybody's making a good car. So now Porsche's 963 is, well, they're racing against Ferrari. So that's an exception. Okay. We all know Ferrari is exotic, but you got Toyota, who hasn't won against another large major manufacturer. And um, so, um, So what Cadillac has to do, you know, to get back in the form, I don't really know. Part of it is BOP, but then again, they've always been handicapped and they still won. So that remains a question mark.
So, okay. So we've got one car that we were discussing earlier that is now going to be that has really, I think at this point, proven themselves that they belong here. Uh,
Please don't say
BMW.
Alpine.
Now I ain't saying we just said Alpine. Let's talk about BMW. BMW has been a team for the past, let's say, they came back in 20. They came in 2022, right, with the M Hybrid V8, and it really wasn't much to talk about. I mean, it was big, it was huge. BMW is now back in endurance racing, but like any other car that comes in new, just like the Lamborghini with the SC63, you get Aston Martin with their Valkyrie. You don't get taken seriously until about maybe year three of your venture, till you become now like, okay, where are you guys at?
Well,
Um,
back in the past it was year two, but I'll take that year three nowadays. you know.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at what has been going on for the past, let's say, you've got it all the way again. You've got it all the way to from 2022 to 2025 now. BMW has proven themselves to be a legit team at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah,
They placed, as we saw at, let's see, they did at, yeah, Imola. They placed third at Imola with behind Alpine and Ferrari the 51 car of Ferrari. And then in IMSA, did they place at Daytona? If I They placed that one race big that was big this year. Um, but are they a team that should be taken way more seriously now, even with this upcoming race with Le Mans? Do they have what it takes to go 24 hours with these guys, rest of these guys?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to remember too that, the GTP cars are at a disadvantage anyway because they're, fr- you know, primarily rear-wheel drive. The LMH cars have electric motors on the front axle for a brief period. Now, you might say, oh, well, you can't say that, Ken, because they're heavier and they only allow to use that hybrid assist for, so much time during a lap. But that
Right.
time could be enough to make the difference. That time when the car's all-wheel drive could be enough to make the difference. And the
Mm,
fact that also they're built completely in house, they're not built off of LMP2 chassis, you know,
yeah.
um, albeit modifications to these LMP2 chassis, heavy modifications, but still, they're not completely from the ground up in
Hmm.
house. Of course, there's going to be differences. There's
Right.
differences between the Lars chassis and Cadillacs, but still, it's a,
So are they?
it's
Should we keep them in high consideration for placing the even top, let's say top five at Le Mans?
it's so much competition out there that it's hard to really say, and this is what I love about this because this really is the golden age of motorsports right now in this category. And this is why I wanted to start this channel because I really want this sport to become more prominent. I want it to become more famous and more popular, and
Right.
more celebrated. And it deserves it because all the cars are different. They're not the same. They don't look the same. They don't drive the same. They don't sound the same.
Hmm.
They don't get their lap times the same. And that's what I love about this is and right now you have more participation at the top category than there possibly ever has. I mean, have we had this much participation at the top class since the 70s and 80s? There was a lot in the 80s. Um, and there was a lot in 1999, but it wasn't this much, I don't think, in 1999. And right now, this is a dream come true. I dreamed of the day I would be able to see this much competition where I would have difficulty predicting, you know,
Yeah.
the outcome
Because back in the day, you
of
just say, okay, it's Audi or it's Porsche
as,
or
as
it's
Audi or
Ferrari
Peugeot or,
or
you know,
Peugeot.
between Toyota and Audi and Porsche, and yeah, in the
You're like, no one wants to be in the
2010s,
conversation. Like, those guys just be here.
yeah. And so since I started, it was Audi and Peugeot at the top, and since in the 2010s, it was Toyota and Audi and um, Porsche. The three manufacturers at that time. So then there was Aston Martin, in 2011, but they, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that another time with the Aston Martin AMR1 that did not
Hmm.
perform well at Le Mans at all. So, but this is what you want. You want difficulty predicting who's going to win. And that's what I like about this whole thing. It's the, it keeps you guessing.
Right.
You don't really know. Now, hey, a lot of people are gonna say you forgot about the balance of performance, Kenya. Well, the balance of performance is a unfortunately, as much as I, have bashed that balance of performance. I've bashed it myself. I did. I was the main one out there saying you guys are crooks, you guys are staging every race. But it just turns out that look, in order to create these regulations, the manufacturers had to really come together and help create the regulations. They're the ones that agreed to this stuff
Right.
because they wanted more competition, you know, and they wanted to do it at an affordable cost for them.
Right.
And so the way to do that is to say, okay, these are the restrictions you have to abide by.
Hmm.
And so since all of them came together and had conversations with the governing body and sat at the table with them, and these guys helped create these regulations. So
You got it is.
this
I
is
mean, they brought it upon
you
themselves for this.
well, I won't say brought it
Not like
upon
in a
themselves
bad
as
way. Not like a bad
no,
way.
it's just a
Yeah.
necessary evil to create this kind of competition because I don't know where BMW is going to be placed. I mean, um, it
Yeah,
just
because
makes me
you don't
think.
know just based off of even like Alpine last race. No one would have guessed
I
Alpine.
exactly. I never
No,
would have guessed
no.
Alpine. Okay, Alpine has been creeping up little by little. They really have. Nobody really been watching them creep up though. And
Right.
then they came out of nowhere at Spa and they were very competitive.
Hmm.
So, um, but we'll have to see if that continues because I mean, last year at Le Mans, the one of the privateer Porsches 963s was very competitive
Hmm.
at Spa. But at Le Mans, that same Porsche was not really part of the story. So we'll see if that continues for Alpine because last year at Le Mans, Alpine conked out after like 4 hours, 6 hours, or something like that, and both of them cars broke down. So we'll see. We know they're good enough for 10 hours because they did Qatar,
Right.
in the first round this year. So they can do a 10-hour race on a flat circuit like Qatar. But can they
Right.
handle 24 hours around Le Sarf? We don't know.
Which
So that's a
we gonna
mystery.
find out.
We're gonna
Yep.
find out. We all know Porsche can do it. We all know Cadillac can do it. We all know Toyota can do it. We all know that Ferrari can do it, obviously. So the question is can Alpine do it? Can Peugeot do it? Because they had uh issue at Le Mans last year too. So
Right.
they weren't fast at all. I think they lasted the whole race, but you know, we'll see what they do this year. So that's the thing. You don't really know what's gonna happen. And that's
You
what I
don't know.
like about this class, this category, is that it's so competitive, you know, that it keeps you guessing who's gonna place where, you know, And if I was to get, I'm not gonna give my prediction yet until we do our next video on what I think is
Right.
gonna happen with Alpine and the rest of them. I don't know yet. I'll give my prediction then. I'll reserve my judgment until
Okay.
then.
Okay. Well, let's get into the last topic here. We want to. I wanted to say we wanted to touch on this before we close out, but LMGT3 with its debut season with the cars the Z06 GT3R, which is a monster. That car, and let's not forget, Corvette has always been one of the best GT cars in its class.
Yeah,
Period.
they've been a dominant force at Le Mans for a long time. Yeah,
Right.
that and
So
the 911.
911. Then you also got the 296 with Ferrari that is
Ferrari,
also
the
it
458, 488 have been
yeah,
stellar. The
right.
296 is no different.
Yeah. So will Corvette keep its lead after these because of their past rounds? They are in the lead of their practically being the best GT car. Um,
You
will
think
they
so?
maintain
You got to look at Ferrari too now.
Ferrari too? Yes, but Corvette, I think that car has been not putting a hurting, but they're very hard to beat. Uh, based off all the past races. But Ferrari again has also been a very, very tough. The GT cast, man, I don't think it's talked about enough. There are some serious competition going on down there, with Ferrari, with Corvette, you and then you've got Lamborghini. I mean, you've got with those teams. It's that I don't know, man. Is this going to be a? Because I don't want to talk about Ford and Mustang. I think the only reason that they're even being kept up with at this point is because of the BOP. I mean, I
I
think
mean,
if
I mean that. I
it, I
mean,
mean, it did okay last
this
race,
it's not as good as the GT. No, it's not. It's
right?
not.
But I mean, yeah, we're not even going to talk about Ford.
It
Let's
what
let's
we you have to think though. The GT class is the most BOP class period on the
yeah,
grid.
right. Because if you restrict those cars like a 296 and then you unrestrict the Z06 and you do that will blow a Mustang out of the water. I don't think it'd even be close, in my opinion.
Of course.
So I think that how do you think Corvette's going to do with this upcoming Le Mans? How do you think Corvette, Ferrari, and all those guys are going to do? Who do you? I guess do you want to make a prediction for GT yet? Or you want to also wait till next show?
Well, it's gonna be hard because, like, okay, the team I'm favoring is actually the uh the team that's racing the 911 GT3 right now,
Mm,
and that's what Rex Motorsports. Is that what they're called?
I think
They
so.
are killing it with that 911. Even though it has a funny looking paint, but
Yeah,
they know how to race that car.
yeah,
It They know how to race the heck out of that Porsche. So I would favor them because they've been on it. Like now this year, Corvette won Qatar, right? And then
yes,
the following race, who won the second race? I think it was it Ferrari that won the second race, or was it the Porsche that won the second race?
I'm not sure he won the second
So
one.
it's swinging back and forth. You have to look at the rounds, the results of who's winning. Um, but it's been back and forth. I would favor the 911 GT3 though from Rex Motorsports. Um,
Uh,
if that's the name of the team, I think I had the name of the team wrong.
they've got
But
so who run that? Imola was a 911 GT3R. That was Manti first. Manti first for him. They got Ryan Hardwick, Richard Lietz, and Ricardo Pera. And then
okay,
in round three, you had with Spa, you had Ferrari win. Um,
yeah. So it's been
with the 296.
Corvette.
So you've got Ferrari, Porsche, and Corvette. Those are your top three.
Yeah, those are the
I
top three in the GT class. They've
I
been
think
the
that
top three
Corvette's
for a
gonna be.
long time. Yeah,
Yes, they have.
they've been the top three for a long time now. Obviously, some every now and then you see the Lexus RCF up there. Uh,
Mhm.
who I'm surprised is not up there in the mix is McLaren in that class, and I really wonder,
That's
like,
a good
okay,
point. Yeah,
why is the 720S Evo not, you know, up there in the mix with those top four or
right.
top three teams?
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about them. That's funny. I
Yeah,
actually forgot about their race.
they're racing with United Autosports, um, in the GT3 class,
Mhm.
and so I was surprised to not see them up there in the mix, but. We have to remember they built these cars based to a certain type of regulation. So um and so they turn a road car into a race car basically
Right.
to very tight regulations. So um we all know a RCF wouldn't compete with no M4 or nothing like that in real life. I
No,
mean,
no.
um
But they soup it
but
up for the racing. I mean,
yeah, they turn into
they
a race car and then they make it all even. They fit within a certain window. And
right.
so um we all know a Mustang is not going to be able to race against no McLaren in real life. I mean,
Of course not.
um, but they do the same thing in like the Michelin Endurance Cup and DTM Racing and these other series they have where they have these GT cars racing, um, they do the same thing. You have McLarens up there racing against, cars that it normally would smoke.
Hmm.
So they do have other series where the GT cars are just racing GT cars, like DTM and the Michelin Endurance Cup. And so it's the same thing with them. Like they're racing against RCFs and, you know, M4s and stuff like that. So
So, okay. So, yeah, we got Corvette, we got Ferrari, we've got Porsche, we got the big dogs there at the top. So, the last team that we've got has that I like, I enjoy watching them. When I like watching them. When I watch GT, I enjoy watching this team. And that's the Iron Dames team. All women's lineup coming in with their pink car. These girls can drive. They
they
can
can,
drive. You've got
they
Michelle
can.
Guiding, Rahel Frey, and Celia Martin.
And
They are,
Sarah Bovey was with them last year.
yeah, and her. So you've got some fairly seasoned drivers, and they're good, man. I mean, they're good. So where do you see them, or how do you see them doing this upcoming race, with Le
Well,
Mans?
they switched to the Porsche, and so I know they switched to the Porsche because they wanted the most probable chance of being competitive. So they switched to the car that's been winning, which is the 911 GT3. So
Right.
uh they can um do very well with that car, and they were looking really good last year. They were looking amazing last year. Um
Mm,
you would have they just were looking amazing. Sarah Bovey at Spa last year with that Lamborghini Huracan was
yep.
looking absolute magic at that race. So you already know those girls can race, man. Um,
Right.
so
Because
uh,
I'm not listen, I'm not expecting. I'll say this. I'm not expecting them to go in there and place first, to be honest. Um, but I'm looking to see how much they're gaining over time. Over time, how much they're going up. Because at the beginning of the season, they placed 13th at Qatar. Um, then they go to Imola, and then they place eighth, but in the MGT3, and then they go up to Spa, and they place 10th. So they're constantly coming up, coming up, coming up. And this race, I hope for them to be like a top six placement. Again, if they go first, shout out to them. I mean, let's be real. I mean that would be impressive. But they have been they have been steadily progressing as each race goes on. As the season keeps going, they are constantly getting better. So and I know with especially with their team with Self, they've got uh Michelle Godding. She's been in Le Mans before. She's
right.
been in, she's it's not like she's new to this. So they've got experience. And they they have an idea what it takes. They know. So I'm excited for them. Yeah, and I'm glad they picked the Porsche because that's what's winning. So it makes
That's
sense.
yeah. The 911 GT3, you can't go wrong with that. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. It's just a lot of competition. Like, look, of course, I'm not biased at all. It's just a lot of competition out there. So they
Hmm.
have to get used to their new car because they switched over from Lamborghini, which they were running last year, to this
Right.
911. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, so they have to get used to this 911, which, is very competitive in the GT3 class, as you know. So,
Hmm.
can they win? Absolutely. Absolutely. They can get first because you never really know what's going to happen. You know, look, I'll tell you something. Audi, all these teams have race engineers, right?
Right.
In 2011, Audi had the first female race engineer to win Le Mans. Her name is Lena Gade.
Really, I didn't even know that. Okay.
It was a first. So, hey, Now before that, they had a different guy there. They had a guy there, forget his name, but she's become famous in the in the motorsport endurance racing circle because she had steered Audi to victory in 2011 for the first time as a
Uh,
female racing engineer for the first time. So history was made then. So history can always be made. You could have a female up there, a lady up there, um, who can, steer a car to victory
sweet.
lane at Le Mans. So anything is possible. Right
I'm
now,
excited.
Le Mans, in motorsports is really hard to predict. I'm usually good at predicting stuff in other sports, but this has been really
Yeah.
hard to predict because anything can happen during a race. It doesn't belong to the swift, but to he who endures to the end. So
Yep.
you have to endure to the end, and there's a lot of different things that can happen: accidents, penalties, um,
Right.
a lot of different things can happen. So breakdowns can happen. Um, so there's different things that can happen in it. Um, so it's hard to make a prediction. I don't want to make any predictions right now. I will give you a prediction in the next video we do. I promise.
Okay. All right. Sound good. Close it out, Ken.
Well, you guys, we are. This is our first episode, and
We
we're
are
gonna do a lot more.
fresh to this.
We're going to do a lot more episodes, and we're definitely going to be talking more about IMSA's WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and FIA's World Endurance Championship, possibly DTM and the Michelin Endurance Cup, since that also involves sports cars. And
Mm,
so this is our first episode. We really want sports cars to be more popular. Sports car racing to be more popular. People love sports cars on the road. They love driving them. They love the way they look and sound and feel. But when it comes to sports car racing, when I tell people, hey, I'm going to a sports car race this weekend, or I'm going to watch a race I'm really excited for this weekend, the first thing that comes out of their mouth, oh, you like NASCAR? I'm like, no, it's not every single racing event has to be NASCAR. And people and the people I can ask anybody that and they always say the same thing. Oh, you like Formula One? I didn't know you like I did not say Formula One either. I said sports car racing. People really do not know that there are series that have really high tech machinery, man, that
That's
really
true.
deserves a lot more attention. Look,
Yeah.
and it's gaining more attention. Don't get me wrong, because look, 2023, under these new hypercar rules, we have seen more viewerships. We have seen record viewerships and record attendance at these races because of these rules. So the rules are working. Obviously, we have record manufacturer participants in the top category. Right
Right.
now, we have 19 participants in the top category in the WEC right now. That is the most it's ever been, I think. Has it ever been that much in history in motorsports? Not in my lifetime. I was born in 85, so, maybe there was more in the 70s and during the time in the 80s, but or maybe just as much, but 19 during the time from the 90s all the way up to 2023, I have not seen this many participants in this sport. So it
Right.
definitely deserves more attention. Look, we've had record attendance, record spectator attendance at Le Mans in 2023. There was 325,000 in attendance in 2023 at Circuit de la Sarthe. We had LeBron James wave the checkered flag. We had Tom
Yeah.
Brady in attendance. We had who else? Brad Pitt, whoever else. We had
Yeah.
celebrities there in attendance. We had 113 million views worldwide during the time of that race, during peak hours of that race, to watch that race in 2023. And since then, last year, that record was beaten. And this year, I'm expecting that record to be beaten again. We had record spectator attendance at Spa, 88,000 in attendance at Spa, 6 hours, Francorchamps this year.
Hmm.
So I really want more people, even more people, to get involved with watching this. Formula One is still ahead, and NASCAR is still ahead.
Hmm.
IndyCar is popular. People know about the Indy 500. People know about the Daytona 500. When I ask people about the Le Mans 24 hours, huh? What's that? I never heard of that.
Yeah, man.
But
Yeah.
it's what it is, you know, and
It's,
and it's a hidden gem. So
uh-huh.
I really
It
want
is.
people to pay attention to what's happening right now. It's very interesting because the fastest car doesn't always win. The slowest car doesn't always win. The most reliable car sometimes wins,
Yeah.
but it's the best car that wins. The best team that's best prepared that wins.
Yep.
So, um, and you have to make the best calls. You have to have the right strategy, um, and things like that. If you can't outpace a team, you can outrace them. And so
Yep.
that's why I like, you know, this form of motorsports. In Formula One, say for instance, if Mercedes qualifies first place at what's the big race, Monza,
Right.
people
Yep.
like Monaco, sorry, Monaco, the Monaco Grand Prix. That's like what the biggest race in Formula One,
Yeah.
right?
That is. Monzas are like probably I'll put their second one, maybe.
Yeah,
Monza's also a really big race.
Monza, Monaco, the Monaco Grand Prix. Yo, if you qualify first at Monaco, you pretty much gonna win the race.
Because you're already out front and everything. I mean,
And
yeah.
it's hard to pass on that circuit. So
Yeah.
if you qualify first, you're gonna win. It's a sprint race,
Yeah.
race to the
Pretty much.
finish, really fast. But this is different.
Yeah.
There's more of an art
Sure.
to this. So
Right.
that's why I like it. The drawback, of course, is they're long.
Yes, they are. So,
Nobody
no.
wants to sit down for that long. So, but tune in because we are going to continue doing videos and covering this form of motorsports that we really truly enjoy covering. And we're going to debate. We're going to have stats and figures and numbers, and we're going to have information about the teams and drivers and cars. And so stay
Yeah.
tuned for our next episode because our next episode we want to release before the 24 hours of Le Mans. And I want to give my predictions about what I think is going to happen at the 24 hours of Le Mans. Who's going to place where, at the end of
We'll
that
have
race.
we'll
And
have
we're going to
qualifying
see,
results. We got BOP charts. We'll have all
we're going
that
to have
stuff.
BOP charts and we're going to see exactly what I think is going to happen based off of, what's been happening so far this year. We have not talked about what happened at Daytona and Sebring yet.
Hmm.
We'll get to that as well. And for the United States of America in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, which is here in the
Yep.
United States. And so I'm excited about that as well. We have seen Porsche dominate that series this year so far, um, and it looks like they're going to take the championship in that class, and I would even say the GT class as well. Um,
Yep.
and we'll
Empire,
have
man.
there's a lot of things to talk about in that series. Cadillac has moved to Wayne Taylor Racing from Chip Ganassi Racing. um how has that move helped them, you know or how has it hurt them rather, right? Because we haven't seen the same results from Cadillac since they moved from Chip Ganassi Racing to Wayne back home to Wayne Taylor Racing. They're still with Action Express, the number 31 car, still doing well. Um, Acura has moved fully into Meyer Shank Racing. They were with Wayne Taylor Racing and Meyer Shank Racing together, but now they're moved completely to Meyer Shank Racing in that series. And Porsche, of course, has stayed with Penske Racing and they have their privateers, JDC, and the other car they have, um, the other team they have, the other privateer team they have. So um, in the GT class, it's been it's been crazy. So um, we have
Yeah, a
Rex
lot.
Motorsports. It has been Iron Danes Motorsports. We have
Yeah.
United Autosports. There's a lot of different things going on in that class. It's a very competitive field as well. Um, there is one more race before Le Mans in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and it's going to take place in Motor City in Detroit.
Hmm.
Um, I would like to think. Look, I'm not going to be biased, but it's okay to say, hey, I want this team to win, right? I want Cadillac and Wayne Taylor Racing to win that race. But the question is, what is going on with Wayne Taylor?
We going we gonna have to talk about them. We're gonna talk about
Because
them next episode.
Chip Ganassi was doing great with that Cadillac, okay? Now, Wayne
Hmm.
Taylor, you were doing great with Cadillac. What's going on, bro? What you doing, man? What's going on with you? We're just gonna have to see. I
Yeah.
want Cadillac to win, but my prediction is Porsche is gonna take another victory. Sorry, that's just where it's been going. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. I really want Cadillac to win, but I just think Porsche is probably gonna end up still winning because they've been winning since Daytona. They won Sebring, and um, they just won the last race, Laguna Seca. So
Hmm.
they won Long Beach. They've been winning every race. Um, so that's what four in a row. Daytona, Sebring, Long Beach, Watkins. I mean Laguna Seca. They won four races right now. The two big endurance races they won, and we'll see what happens next weekend.
All right.
So for right now, that is the end of this episode, and stay tuned for a lot more information and a lot more debating. Um, this is what we're interested in. This is what we want to gear this channel towards. So stay tuned, everybody. Subscribe if you like. Uh, comment in the comment section if you like. Click the like button if you like. If you have any questions, any comments, if you have any suggestions about how to make our podcast or our episodes better, then leave those in the chat. And stay tuned for our next episode. This is AutoRing Magazine correspondent Ken Johnson, and this is my boy, homeboy.
Chris Thomas.
And we will see you guys next time for our next episode. We'll have our next episode up before, definitely we'll have another maybe two episodes before the big race at Le Sarf on June 14th. So stay tuned. Check you next time.
All right. Peace.
Peace.